This is probably the toughest topic in all of Catholic divorce ministry, but I'm going in. So here we go. It's the topic of people who've been through a civil divorce, maybe years ago. They've moved on. They don't feel like they were ever really married, or they're past that. They've fallen in love with somebody else and they've attempted marriage outside the church. They've gotten civilly married without an annulment. So I'm going in. Here it is. So, Jesus was very smart. He taught eternal, deep, mysterious truths by using analogies, parables. I'm going to do the same thing with this. My husband and I recently downsized. We sold our beautiful home in Palm Desert, California, and opened an escrow. We got a nice big fat offer for full asking price. And then we had to find another house right away. So we found a smaller house that's more affordable and comfortable, and I was very excited. Then we had to open a second escrow. The problem was we didn't have any financial or legal right to move into that new house until we'd fulfilled the obligations of selling the old house and crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's in the new house. How many of you have ever been through 2 escrows at one time? Escrows are endless, they're expensive, and they're intrusive. They want all kinds of information about you, and they take a lot of time. But we're willing to go through the process and to jump through all those hoops because we know at the end is something of great value that will provide security and happiness for many years to come. So I'm going to use the analogy of a marriage being your house. And for some reason, somebody feels like they're not happy in that house and they move out, or you have a civil divorce. You can't just go and move into a new house until you take care of the old house. So using this analogy, I've come up with 10 points that hopefully will illustrate the deep and beautiful and mysterious teachings of the Catholic Church on this. Okay, point number 1. Marriage is a sacred bond and it cannot be broken by anything other than death. So let's say you were moving out of that house because you felt you had just cause. The house was filled with asbestos and everybody in it was getting sick. You had to move. That's an analogy of people who felt like they had to get a divorce. Now, is that a valid reason for moving out and abandoning your commitment to the bank on that house? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it was a simple process of having somebody come in and analyze the problem, help you fix it, pay a little time and money to get it squared away, and you still have your house. In some cases, though, the marriage/house was so damaged from the beginning, it's irreparable. So that's to be decided down the road. So number 2, you made a vow till death. Even if you don't feel married, you are. The church is the last one standing in our culture, in our world today, that defends the marriage bond till death. Everybody else has given you a free ticket, but not the church. Marriage is so sacred and powerful. It images and is a doorway into that eternal union of Jesus, the bridegroom, and his bride. So you made a vow until death. Go back to the house. You may not feel like you owe the bank any money because of the asbestos problem. So you may feel like it's not fair, but in the courts and in the law, in the culture, in the community, you owe that debt until otherwise shown that you don't. You also can't say to the bank, well, if I would have known something bad would have happened, I never would have signed the loan docs. And, that's another reason I should have been out. So it's not a perfect analogy. Remember that analogies help us get to a deeper truth, but they ultimately fall short. So number 2, you made a vow until death. You can't just get a civil divorce and go off and attempt marriage again. When your current marriage, your first marriage, that bond is still considered valid and you owe a debt out of love and justice to your spouse. Number 3, The annulment process in the Catholic Church is like going to the title company. Now, title companies investigate what was going on before you bought that house, what's going on now, and they clear the title. They look at the ownership issues, and they are the ones who can free somebody from an obligation to that house, or in this analogy, to that marriage. The annulment process, like the title company, will help you determine whether you still owe that debt or that you are released from that debt. Number 4, the debt of love and commitment and justice must be paid prior to qualifying for a new loan. You know that even if you move out of a house and walk away and go to your new bank and say, yeah, I want to get a loan for this new house over here, the bank is going to do some digging. They are about protecting, not invading your life, but protecting you, protecting all parties, even protecting the culture, and in this analogy, the church at large. Justice demands that you fulfill your debts, or otherwise appropriately and legally and morally clear yourself of those debts. You know, justice demands this. It's not just about getting a house, but it's about who we're falling in love with, who we're having sex with. These aren't just things that we can determine on our own and say, well, that's my private business. We are, as Catholics, as Christians, as human persons, we are both private and personal individuals, but we are also part of a family and a public and a community. So everything that we do is private, but not private. It doesn't affect everybody else, but it does affect everybody else in a certain sense. Number 5, to ignore the debt is to commit fraud. Now, let's just say that you do decide you don't like that old marriage, and off you go and you get civilly divorced and you go to the courthouse and you marry, or somewhere else, or you marry somebody outside of the Catholic Church. This is a violation of the order of marriage. It's a violation of justice. It doesn't give any true security to the person you love. So let's say you're a man and you have this new wife and you're going to move her into this new house, this new life. Well, when you have the bank or the IRS or the law coming after you because of this prior debt, you're not bringing this new woman that you love into a place of security. You're not bringing her into a place where she can feel free and enjoy the fruits and the blessings that come with home ownership. None of the benefits, none of the graces that should come to man and woman in a marriage, when you do it on your own terms and you go outside the church and you leave that other marriage hanging, you block yourself and you block the new person from everything that God intends for man and woman to have in marriage. You also not just block them, you expose them to potential danger. Lawsuit, litigation, being homeless, kicked out on the street because you really don't own that second home. And the true is, the same thing is true in the moral life. You put somebody in a state of sin. You coax them away from the teachings of the church, away from the fullness of commitment and loyalty to the Catholic Church, to Jesus through his church, and say, you know what? I don't buy all this stuff. I'm going to determine this on my own. And that's exactly what Eve did in the very beginning, and look where we are now. So you are depriving yourself and you are exposing yourselves to grave harm, even being hauled off to jail. Now, again, this analogy falls short, but hopefully you're understanding now. This prior marriage is sacred. This prior marriage demands that you take care of that and deal with that, not just because the church has a rigid rule, but because of justice, because of authentic love for everybody involved. Now, here we go a little further. Number 6, true justice requires that you move back out of that new house that you don't really own and clear up title first. clear up title first. You don't have the right to move into a new house and move your furniture in there and start cooking dinner on the barbecue and all the wonderful things that we do with home ownership. This means that you have no right to have sex and to express vows to another person when the old vows still stand. Let's talk about sex. What is sex? And I love St. John Paul II's theology of the body. It is a beautiful way to understand these rich and mysterious teachings about the human person and our deep passions. But the marital act between a man and a woman is body language. And what does it say? It says in body language what the man and the woman said at the altar. I give myself to you freely, fully, faithfully, and fruitfully. Nothing held back. Till death do us part. No conditions, no terms, no backdoor exit, and open to the beautiful gift of children as God intends. That's marriage. And when we say those vows with our words, we then go into the honeymoon suite and into our master bedroom for the rest of our marriage, and we express those vows over and over and over in different ways at different times, in total love and fidelity to the other person, in body language. Sex is not something you do on a date. Sex is not about getting physical pleasure. That's part of it. But it has a much deeper meaning that we don't want to admit and we don't want to know. This is very countercultural. Sex is for marriage, period. I didn't believe that for a long time. I didn't live it for a long time, and I paid a hefty price. I got hauled off to jail. I lost divine life in my soul. I used people and I let people use me. It will catch up with you. The bank, the escrow company, the IRS, the cops, they're going to come someday. You don't want to do that to yourself or to somebody that you love. Justice requires that you move out of that house, that you don't even think about the new place until you clear up title first. That means you're not free to sign new loan documents. You're not free to give consent to a new marriage. You are defrauding the other person. You blocking each other from everything that they should have. How do I know? I live this. I lived it the wrong way, and I've also lived it the right way, and it is worth it. You know, I remember when my husband and I first came and saw our new house. The old house is in escrow, and we looked at a lot of homes, and we found this one. It was adorable, and it worked because my husband and I both work out of the house. And I'm really good with seeing how things can look. I should have my own HGTV show. So I had already imagined I'm walking through another person's house. I have no right to that house. I have no right to occupy it, but I'm already dreaming of like ripping off her curtain rods and painting this room and where I would put the bed and where I would put the desk. I was already dreaming, and that's okay. For those of you who've been through divorce and it hasn't worked and you're hoping for new love again, those dreams are natural. You can dream and you can plan, but you have to do it in right order and you have to do it the right way, or you will hurt yourself gravely and others in the process. Number 7, you must live as brother and sister until you have the freedom to enter marriage rightly. Now here comes that phrase, living as brother and sister. Living as brother and sister means I still love you, I still care about you, but I will not give you or demand from you the rights that are due only in marriage, because I'm not free to marry you yet, or maybe ever. And even sex outside marriage is another way of defrauding each other and using each other. We don't have any right to give to the other what is due only in marriage. We do it out of fear and loneliness, and I could go off on another tangent. Let's get back to here. Why do you live as brother and sister? Because that's authentic love. You don't use or demand from the other person what is not theirs to give and not yours to have. It honors the dignity of marriage. I know many couples who come to me in this situation. They say, we want to go higher. We want to do it right. And I say, okay, you've been married civilly for 10 years and you got 2 kids, but you have to separate. It's impossible maybe for you to move out of the house, impractical, but get separate bedrooms. Stop making those demands that only belong in marriage. Now, can you still have dinner together and watch TV together and hug and kiss and live the rest of your life? Absolutely, as a brother and sister would. When I was younger, I had a couple brothers come and live with me, and they were fun and exciting and warm and intimate times. But we didn't live as spouses. We didn't have sexual intercourse or sexual relationships between the two of us. Again, you can love somebody. You can love somebody passionately and intimately and not have to have sex with them at this time and at this place. Living as brother and sister honors the dignity of marriage. It honors the dignity of the person. And it frees you. It frees you to encounter Jesus fully in the sacraments. When you are not making those sinful demands, and yeah, they're sinful, because you don't have the right, and it's all about you. When you don't make those demands and you take the high path and you choose to live as brother and sister, you open the doors for all the fullness of graces to come into you and the woman or man you love and you're currently with. The graces that will give them divine life and strengthen them in their ability to take that high path and to love authentically. You're not in Holy Communion with the church when you step outside and do it your own way. So it is, again, an act of, it violates Holy Communion to march up and demand Holy Communion or expect to receive Holy Communion when you're not in full Holy Communion with the church. Live as brothers and sisters. Many, many couples have taken this path, and usually, and I'm going to say this, it's the man who struggles. He doesn't get it. But when he understands that he's opening the doors for his beloved to receive Jesus in the sacraments, to be able to go to confession and to be freed from sin habits and to receive Jesus in the sacraments, that's authentic love. If he will sacrifice for her, for himself, now he's taking the path of true love, true love. Number 8, once you choose this, you must establish appropriate boundaries. In working with couples and having been through this myself, I understand it's tempting. You have habits. You've been together for a long time. You love each other. It's natural to want to express that with your bodies. But keep it in. Don't go there. You can do this. Separate bedrooms. If one has to sleep on the couch, big deal. One has to sleep on the couch. Watch your alcohol intake. Alcohol dulls us and takes away all the natural inhibitions, and it's just not good. I love alcohol. I love a nice glass of wine and a cold beer and a margarita, but it is not appropriate when you're trying to do something very, very difficult. It's just like being on a diet. We know that. You avoid those red flag foods until you get to where you want to be. Men, take the lead on this. Don't make your woman come to you and say, we're living in sin and I want to take the high path and I want to go back to Holy Communion. Will you agree to do this with me? Don't resist. Don't complain and push. Be a man, for God's sake. Protect her heart. Take the high path. Pick up that cross and take the high road. If you want to love her, that's what you have to do. Number 9, when you do, you will enjoy, both of you, increased respect, trust, and love. Look, when a man or a woman submits themselves to the church, to God through his church, out of obedience and humility, nothing is more attractive to a good Christian person than that kind of a spouse. Somebody who puts God first and the truth and the high path first. That's going to garner deep respect from the person that you love. It also means that you can be the master of your own sexual passions, your own erotic passions. We can't respect people who let their passions take control of them. Where's the strength? Where's the maturity? Where's the spouse that we long for and that we were made for? Somebody who will do the difficult thing for the greater good. Whenever we find somebody who's master of their libido and master of their passions, they will be the master of our heart. Let me say that again. If you will choose to take the high path for the greater good and master your libido and master your passions and master your emotions, you will be the master of our heart. And I know that's what we are all desiring in marriage. And number 10, if the person that you are living with or civilly married with refuses, they do not love you. I know those are hard words. Jesus said hard sayings. I'm just going to say this too. They don't know how to love you the way that you were made to be loved. Anybody who will get in the way of you receiving the fullness of your baptismal promises and the graces in the sacrament is not loving. So this is a deep, complex topic. I'm getting toward the end here, and there's so much more. Please go to my website, rosesweet.com, if you want further counsel on this. I'll try to help you the best I can. Just remember this. The annulment process is difficult. It's like escrow. It's endless. It's not expensive anymore, but it is intrusive because the bank and the escrow company and everybody else wants to know what's going on to protect you and everybody involved. So submit to it humbly and obediently and with joy and excitement, because a new life can be yours. It's worth it. Get professional help. You can't do this on your own. It's a complex issue, and even people down at the parish can't always give you the right answers. Sad but true. Get a hold of me. Know that I'm praying for you. Know that I have been where you have been, and I know it's totally worth it. You know, here's my promise to you. If you will do this, you will have an authentic wedding night that you will never forget. If you can't, I will help you through it, moving forward to have a life, a rich and full and happy and healthy holy life that you also will never regret. I'm Rose Sweet. I'm your host for this conference. I hope this has been helpful. Please let somebody in this situation know about this video, and know, as usual, I keep you and all your family in my prayers.